Welcome, my people. We are heading into video 2 of level 3 leadership. This is one of my favorite parts of level 3. So go ahead and lock in, get your notepads ready, and get ready to take something that will change your leadership. Let's go. The second principle or second key that I want to give you here, and John C. Maxwell calls this the law of Big Mo. The law of Big Mo. And what is Big Mo? Mo is momentum. And I want to say this, and I believe in this with my whole heart. Momentum is a leader's best friend. I want to say it like this. Momentum is your small group's best friend. Momentum is the youth ministry's best friend. Momentum is the church's best friend. Why? Well, it's right about this level of leadership, which is the production level, that we begin to see this thing, Big Mo, this momentum kick in. And the results that come from momentum are just astronomical, and they need to be stewarded well, and we need to do everything in our power to keep it. Momentum creates a self-reinforcing cycle, and I want you to hear this cycle out. The more results you produce, the more momentum that you gain, and with momentum, the more that you can achieve. When momentum comes, obstacles and challenges meet the force of momentum and cannot stop it. Now, I watch a lot of sports, and there's a time of the year called March Madness with basketball, and it is one of the most diverse and crazy moments in basketball through the whole year between high school to college, and here's why. They take obviously the best seeded and the best teams in the country, but they give these teams from smaller schools an opportunity to get into the tournament. And you really are, they're looking for 16 teams that get into, or more than 16, but they're looking for teams to get into this tournament and to start going all the way to lead to a March Madness championship. Now, there's this term they call a Cinderella team, which is a team that should not win the championship. They do not have the best players. They do not have the best facilities. They do not have the biggest schools, but they get in and they win. They win and they get in the tournament. And they take that momentum and then they win again. And they take that momentum and they win again. And before you know it, they're running all the way near the championship game, and they shouldn't be there when you compare the talent, but they are there because the momentum from the win before is pushing them to achieve a higher level of success. And although they might not have that talent, it's actually pushing them to push through some obstacles that they otherwise were never able to get through when they didn't have momentum. I want you to think about it like the snowball effect, right? When you roll up a ball and you push it down a hill, the more snow that the snowball picks up, the more speed that the snowball picks up, and it keeps compounding and rolling down the hill and getting bigger and faster and bigger and faster. And that is what we want to keep alive in our leadership. We want to keep that type of momentum right there where it doesn't end, it doesn't stop. And we'll get into some things that stop momentum, but practically, what does this look like within youth ministry? What does this look like within a church or on a leadership team? Here's what it looks like. As a youth pastor, we see that one of the hardest things to do, and it's probably with most ministries, is like youth students have a stigma, especially of dealing with a lack of interest and a big lack of commitment. And so what you'll find is that as a youth ministry catches momentum, events are going good, small groups are growing, people are becoming spiritually disciplined. They're abiding in the vine. They're growing. They have daily personal revival in their lives. Students are getting free of addictions. Students are walking into their purpose. There becomes this excitement around the ministry where like kids are looking at their friends and they're like, oh my goodness, that's the kid in my math class and he's on fire for Jesus. And I felt like this 6 times before that I tried to do this. I couldn't do it anymore because I was the only one. But now I see 3 of my friends radically saved at the altar. I feel like this is possible again. And so not only that, but as they live and walk this life and they have more living examples of people around them who are staying consistent, They not only want to come to church because they're interested, they not only become someone who's attending, but they become participants and they never want to leave and they never want to walk away from Jesus. And momentum helps build this because it becomes a force that breaks through those natural and normal hurdles that come with being a part of a youth ministry, things that we've all seen within church: lack of interest, lack of commitment and consistency, right? These things get broken down when there's living examples, because as those students walk into the fullness of their purpose, the people who are leading them get excited. They're like, this works. God is moving. What does that cause them to do? It builds the fire in them, the energy in them, and they turn around and they, in turn, get even more students interested. And those students catch the fire, they grow up, they mature, they stay consistent, they get excited, and then that excites leaders again. And the cycle just keeps rippling and rippling and rippling. So I think the main thing is this: momentum overcomes the adversities. Momentum transforms culture. Write that down. Momentum transforms culture. As momentum builds, it starts to shape the culture of a ministry or organization. Rather than a passive, consumer-driven group, a ministry becomes a vibrant, energetic community where students actively or congregants actively engage, serve, and lead. This culture becomes contagious, drawing in students who want to be part of something, or drawing in congregants who want to be part of something that is exciting. Momentum transforms the culture. I just pray right now that in your small groups, in your ministry, in your life, you get a momentous culture within whatever it is you're leading. You get a momentous culture within your heart where once that ball starts rolling, you don't ever let it stop. And everyone around is getting excited and growing at an accelerated pace, because like the snowball rolling down the hill, as other people see transformation happening in your ministry, transformation happening in your students, transformation happening in your small groups, they catch it and it becomes contagious. And it spreads like a wildfire, and everyone wants to be a part of it. Momentum transforms culture. Momentum also drives spiritual growth. And I've touched on this already. As they see growth occurring spiritually, they get excited. They get excited to hear you and to have you lead them on how to do it, because they want to be growing spiritually. And I've found this to be true. Most people who are coming to church, or who are active or semi-active or even sometimes active in a small group, they want to change. They don't want to be addicted. Now, how they might get to that result is probably what's causing them not to change and causing them to stay addicted and causing them to stay inconsistent. But in reality, that's what they want. So if they can see that you have proof of results, and as they see it, they will begin to believe that that can happen in their own spiritual walk with God. And it makes it easier for them to say, I know this is going to suck. I know this won't be easy. I know there'll be sacrifice, but I know that there's proven results. And they'll respect that, and they'll respect you as a leader because of it. Momentum inspires leaders. And we also touched on this one already, but I want to give you a space to write it down and really talk about it. As momentum builds, leaders, volunteers, people within a ministry become more energized. Seeing students and congregants engage and thrive brings a renewed passion to the team of leaders, who then invest more time within their organization or ministry. This creates a reinforcing cycle where the students' or congregants' excitement fuels the leaders, and the leaders' enthusiasm in turn drives the students or congregants forward even further. Guys, I want you to see that in this level of production, as we begin achieving the goals that we set out through our relationship, through our positions, and we hit these markers, we're starting that ball of momentum rolling, And once that thing gets rolling, you just enter into just a flow state, like an absolute train wreck, or just bowling ball just starts rolling down a hill, and it is just taking out obstacles, things that you never thought would be possible or possible, budgets that you never thought, the money that you needed and you didn't have the budget for it. All of a sudden, money is no longer an object. God just is moving and people are just open and receptive. I want you to get some momentum in your life as a leader. And when you enter into this level of leadership, that is where momentum is introduced. But I also want to say that I've watched teams walk into momentum a lot. I've been a part of teams that have had momentum going. But the thing about momentum is it's relying on it already being moving to stay moving. That's what's causing it to pick up pace. So if momentum stops, in order to get that ball moving, you have to start the process all over again. And that's why it's important that we don't kill momentum. So I want to look into some killers of momentum. The number one, without a doubt, killer of momentum is a lack of consistency. Momentum thrives on consistency. If events, services, or small groups are inconsistent, canceled last minute, or poorly planned, students won't know. Congregants won't know what to expect. And they'll lose interest. Students need regular rhythms. Congregants need regular rhythms to stay engaged. For example, if you start a successful group, you start to gain some traction, but then every other week you're changing the date of the group. Every other week they show up to group and they feel like it's poorly planned, like you didn't really put in your best effort. It's not innovative. It's the same over and over and over again. And they can tell it's just a last minute thought, just something you're checking off as a box. Guess what's going to happen? They'll stop attending because they can't rely on it being something that is a priority and something that's valued. And so the good thing about consistency is that you might think that you're losing momentum because even within attendance or maybe some of your numbers, things dip. But consistency ensures that the dips are only temporary and that staying consistent will allow you to keep momentum building up over time. So, momentum doesn't just mean that you have the highest number of kids in your service of all time. Because you're going to have some highs and lowers. You're going to have some dips in that number. You might hit 100, then the next week you're at 90, then the next week you're at 100, then the next week you're at, 93, and the next week you're at 98, right? It's not going to just be, well, we just hit this number, we just hit this goal, we just achieved this money amount, and now we're there forever. No, you're going to see that there's going to be moments where there's a little bit of a dip. Now, I'm not talking a tank where it drops off the face of the earth. I'm talking about a dip. And consistency will keep you from turning that dip into something that is irreversible and you have to restart momentum. It will keep you climbing over time, up and up and up and up. The second killer of momentum is poor follow-up. Y'all, if you want to be a leader in level 3 leadership, you want to be a leader that produces, you want a leader that has momentum in your life. You need to have a great follow-up culture and consistency within you. Exciting events like youth conferences, retreats, outreaches can generate huge momentum. However, if there's no effective follow-up from that moment, not only with the students or congregants that are a part of your church or organization or small group, not only will the ones that are already active no longer attend or come back because they're not being connected with, but the new ones certainly won't come back. And thus making that portion of your momentum, those events, those outreaches, those small groups, ineffective. And so you as a leader need to ensure that follow-up is always your top priority. If someone gets saved, you're following up. If there's a new visitor, you're following up. If somebody attends an event, even if it's not a church event and you're a church, you should still follow up, reach out, establish that connection. You shouldn't just go after new people and abandon all the people that are currently there. You need a good follow-up culture, or that alone can kill momentum, especially within a ministry, especially within youth ministry. That will kill momentum. Another thing that kills momentum is neglecting relationships. Listen, as a youth pastor, I can say this confidently. Youth ministry is built on relationships. That in and of itself is why we as a church and as a ministry have small groups, so that we can stay connected and relational with the students. If leaders become more focused, or a youth ministry or a church ministry becomes more focused on running programs than they do building personal relationships, momentum will slow down. Students who don't feel known, or congregants that don't feel known and valued or cared for, will disengage. A program-heavy focus can leave students feeling, or congregants feeling, like they are just another face in the crowd rather than a valued part of ministry. We need to ensure we are not neglecting relationships as leaders. Just because we move to level 3 doesn't mean we forget level 2. It's from level 2 that we get to level 3. It's from permission that we get to production. And we can't become so obsessed with the systems, so obsessed with the processes, so obsessed with achieving goals that we forget what got us there, and that is relationship. I've seen some great examples of people who won't let relationship die. And even within the small group, I heard of this one recently, and I think this is just so wise, and every group should do this. There was a group of 3 leaders, and they wanted to ensure that they were staying connected equivalently with all of their students, so that none of their students were getting siloed, and none of the leaders were becoming the sole person loving and pouring into their life. So they made a rotating schedule with their students, where leaders were always picking up different students in their group every week, and they used that time picking up their students to be intentional with building relationship. And what do you know? Everybody in that group was feeling an equivalent amount of love from every single leader, and that didn't lead to attachment, but it led to growth. And that right there is a great example of some people that did not neglect relationship just because their group grew, just because they got position, just because some people gave them permission and wanted to be with them and wanted to learn from them. They ensured that relationship was their main objective, and it produced great results. Great results. Amazing results. That was one of the biggest groups I've seen thus far in youth ministry as a youth pastor. They cared about relationships and never neglected them. And if you do, momentum will cease, and you're going to see a decrease in engagement. Another momentum killer is a failure to address conflict or problems. When issues arise, such as conflict between students or between leaders, unresolved tension can kill momentum. Neglecting to address problems leads to bitterness, gossip, dissension, division, which can derail the positive energy. It can derail the momentum that we have going and that's already been built up. We need to ensure that not only are we addressing conflict, but that within ministry, peer-to-peer, leader to mentee, leader to student, we are ensuring that we're also addressing the spiritual behavior of people. You know, if we notice that someone has a bad sin habit, if we notice that someone has a bad leadership habit that's going to ruin something, we need to address it. We need to address it quickly. If we have a problem with other people as level 3 leaders, then we need to ensure that we're addressing that issue. If we see an elephant in the room, we need to make sure that we're through the lens of the Bible, Matthew chapter 18, we are addressing those issues. And a neglect and a failure to address those issues will lead in something that could be catastrophic to the momentum of a ministry. Neglecting prayer and spiritual disciplines is another killer of momentum. Momentum in ministry specifically is rooted in God's work and the leading of the Holy Spirit. He is a part of every single decision. He is a part of every single initiative, every single goal. And he is celebrated. Our King of Kings and Lord of Lords is celebrated with every single success. And as leaders, we learned that the best thing we can bring and offer as leaders in the kingdom of God is our relationship with God and the overflowing of love that comes from that. If we neglect prayer as a team or as a leadership team, if we neglect spiritual disciplines as individuals, that's a great way to kill momentum. It would kill momentum. Second to last one here, a lack of growth. A lack of growth. If people do not have opportunities to serve, lead, or contribute to the ministry or church as a whole, they will feel like spectators rather than participants. Want to kill momentum within a ministry or a church? Take away someone's path to growth. If people don't have opportunities to grow, if you as a leader don't have an opportunity to grow, you will what? Instead of growing, you will fall back. You will descend, not ascend. And when you do that, you're going to walk away and kill momentum, right? Because now you're going to start momentum in the opposite direction, where now you're discouraged, you're not growing, you feel like you have no purpose. So now the people that you're leading are discouraged because you're discouraged. So less of them show up, less of them are active, less of them are changing, which only adds insult to injury to you, which then causes you to lead with less enthusiasm and passion than before, which then leads to less of them receiving. And it's a vicious cycle the opposite way. If we want to ensure that we are level 3 leaders, we are producing and always going up, we need to make sure that we are always growing. Because if you're not growing, you're dying. This is a swamps and rivers moment. And finally, a silent killer to momentum is a lack of innovation. Doing the same thing over and over without any new ideas or changes leads to momentum being halted. If you're a small group leader and you're leading a group and you show up to the same house, do the same thing at the same time every day or every week, you will kill your momentum. There needs to be intentionality. There needs to be innovation. As a team, if we always show up and do the same services and same events with no growth, with no change, with no adaptation, we will become stale to people. We need to get an environment where we're okay with changing and growing. And we're always willing to challenge anything that we see hasn't led to production. As groups grow, as services grow, as you grow as a leader and the people around you grow, there'll have to be more organization, more systems. There'll have to be more problem solving. And if we don't live in a place of innovation, we'll get left behind and we'll kill momentum. The law of Big Mo, what a great place to end it for today. You go ahead, take your notes, memorize and think on them. Get ready for the quiz that will be presented for you right in the description below. And stay tuned for the next video.